On that hot summer day, I embarked on a long-awaited solo trip to tropical Miami. I chose a condominium hotel on the beach, hoping to give my taut nerves a complete relaxation through this trip. However, the trip was not as peaceful as I expected, and a series of bizarre events left me with an unforgettable memory in that city. The apartment is housed in an old-fashioned building, and although the exterior is slightly dated, the interior has been carefully renovated to look both vintage and modern. The room I stayed in was facing the blue sea, and what attracted me most was the large mirror above the bed, which not only widened the sense of space, but also made the sea view continue in the mirror, which was breathtakingly beautiful. However, this mirror later became a lingering shadow in my mind. On the first night, the Miami night was not as serene as I had imagined. A tropical storm brought bursts of thunder, and the waves lapped against the shore with a low rumble. I lay in bed, listening to the symphony of nature and drifting off to sleep. But just late at night, a clear and regular knock on the door woke me up. At first, I thought it was an illusion, for the sound sounded neither like it was coming from outside the door, nor like a hallucination in a dream. I held my breath and listened as the knocking resumed, slowly but surely, as if calling for something. Gathering my courage, I walked toward the door and peered out through the cat's eye, but the hallway was empty except for the dim light. I told myself that perhaps the sound from next door was traveling through the wall, and returned to bed to continue trying to fall asleep. However, the feeling like someone was peering in the dark never put me at ease. In this way, I spent the night half asleep and half awake. In the next few days, strange things happened one after another. Every morning when I woke up, I found that the water cup placed on the table was always empty, knowing that I had obviously checked the water cup before going to bed, and there was still half a cup of water left inside. I began to wonder if I was sleepwalking or if there was something wrong with my memory, but the repetition of the incident for several days in a row forced me to admit that there seemed to be some kind of uninvited guest in the room. What disturbed me the most was the mirror that faced the bed. A few times, I woke up in the middle of the night, and through the faint moonlight, I saw what appeared to be shadows swaying slightly in the mirror, as if someone was standing at the end of my bed, silently watching me. Every time I sat up violently and turned on the light, there was nothing else in the mirror but my own figure. But the feeling of being watched lingered, preventing me from sleeping soundly every night. As these events accumulated, my nerves became unusually sensitive and I even began to doubt my own sanity. Until one day, when I was unpacking, I accidentally found an old journal, forgotten in the corner of a drawer. The journal belonged to a former tenant who had lived in the apartment and recorded some creepy experiences, a knock on the door in the middle of the night, disappearing water, and a vision in the mirror, all strikingly similar to what had happened to me. At the end of the journal, the former tenant left a message: "Remember, you're not the only one here." I suddenly realized that these phenomena might not be coincidental, but rather that this old building carried some unanswered questions. I decided to take action, and through the internet and the local library, I began to dig deeper into the history of this building. It turns out that in the early 1900s, this was a small hotel where a young traveler disappeared on a stormy night, and it is said that he was last seen in this room, and then vaporized, never to be seen again. Knowing this history both frightened and intrigued me. I decided to try to communicate with him on that stormy night, hoping to solve the mystery. I refilled my glass of water and extinguished all the lights, leaving only a small nightlight at the foot of my bed to reflect the mirror. I sat on the edge of the bed and waited in silence. At midnight, the knock on the door came again, clearer than ever. Instead of getting up to check, I whispered into the air, "I know you're here, and if you want to be remembered, then let's talk." That night, the knock on the door never sounded again, and the water in the glass did not diminish while I caught a flash of an image in the mirror, a blurry figure that seemed to be nodding its head in greeting to me. Since then, the anomalies in the room have gradually disappeared. 2018 went to Hong Kong, a travel destination I intend to remain. My trip to Hong Kong was planned to enjoy the delights of a shopping paradise and savor authentic cuisine, but instead, I was involved in a chance adventure that led me to a psychic experience that spanned time and space. It was a humid summer evening when I strolled through the streets of Mongkok, surrounded by bustling crowds and colorful billboards. Unintentionally, I saw on an old poster a rumor about a ghost bus, a mysterious bus that wanders around the edge of the city late at night, carrying dead souls and the living. Though I knew it was probably just an urban legend, my deepest curiosity drove me to find out. As night fell, I followed the instructions of the legend and arrived at a remote station in the New Territories. It was far away from the hustle and bustle of the city, with only sporadic street lights illuminating the empty platform. I stood there, waiting for the legendary bus. As the minutes ticked by, the silence around me made me begin to doubt my decision. Just when I was almost about to give up, an old double-decker bus came slowly out of the mist in the distance, with a dark body and no visible route number, as if it had traveled from another era. I hesitated, but intense curiosity drove me to board the bus. The bus was empty and dimly lit, giving an indescribably depressing feeling. The driver, a middle-aged man in an old-fashioned uniform, didn't look at me, just silently started the car, and the bus then slowly drove out of the station, heading in an unknown direction. As the bus went deeper and deeper into the deserted area at the edge of the city, the scene outside the window became more and more desolate, and the occasional passing shadows seemed to be telling untold stories. Suddenly, with a sharp brake, the bus stopped in front of a deserted old factory area and the doors opened automatically. I got off the bus after a few passengers who appeared at an unknown time. They were silent and expressionless, and walked straight into the ruins. Out of curiosity, I followed. Through the overgrown path, we came to a building that looked abandoned for a long time. The interior of the building was covered with dust and cobwebs, and every step reverberated as if awakening a sleeping history. In the deepest part, we found an old warehouse with a broken TV set with snowflake dots flickering on the screen, but it wasn't powered on. Just as I was puzzled, the TV screen suddenly lit up, and a woman dressed in last century's clothing appeared on the screen, her face poignant, with infinite sadness in her eyes. She seemed to be telling us off-screen a dusty past story about love, betrayal, and sacrifice. As the story deepens, the temperature around us plummets, the air becomes heavy, and I can feel those fragments of the past intertwining with reality. After the woman finished her story, the image gradually blurred until it disappeared. At this point, the passengers around me began to slowly dissipate, as if they had never existed. I realized with a jolt that they might be the dead souls of the city, using this ghost bus to repeat their stories every night, looking for relief or a chance to be remembered. I fled the place in haste and returned to the street to find the bus long gone. I stood in the night breeze, looking at the brightly lit city, my heart swarming with mixed emotions. This unexpected encounter had opened my eyes to the unknown side of Hong Kong, a ghostly world woven by countless unfulfilled wishes. The next day, I tried to look up information about that old factory district on the internet, and was surprised to find out that it was once a famous movie shooting site, where a fire broke out decades ago, resulting in the deaths of several crew members, including a young actress. Her story matched strikingly with the images I saw on the ghost bus, and the cause of that fire remains a mystery to this day. Since then, my exploration of Hong Kong has been less limited to the superficial glitz and glamour and more focused on the stories and history behind the city. Whenever I walked through that area again, a strange feeling would well up in my heart, as if I could vaguely hear the voices that were not far away, which were reminding me that every place has its untold secrets waiting to be heard and understood by those who are destined to be there. This experience has become one of the most memorable parts of my trip to Hong Kong. Not only did it give me a new understanding of paranormal phenomena, but more importantly, it taught me to face the world with a more reverent and tolerant mindset, whether it be light or shadow. After an exhausting city life, I decided to take a countryside vacation to find some relaxation and peace. I chose a small, unheard-of village where I had heard that the scenery was pleasant and the people were simple and friendly. Upon arrival, I was mesmerized by the serenity and fresh air of this countryside, as if I was in another world. However, my peaceful life was shattered by something strange. Late one night, I was awakened by a spell, and the strange calls coming from outside my window made me uncomfortable. I tried to ignore the sounds, but they stuck in my mind like nails and prevented me from sleeping. The next day, I happened to overhear the villagers talking about mysterious religious rituals. They discussed the rituals in low voices, mentioning some mysterious terms and incantations that I had never heard of before. Their eyes revealed an unspeakable fear that made me begin to wonder if this village was hiding some kind of unknown secret. Gradually, I discovered some horrible customs. The villagers would hold rituals on specific dates, using animal blood and mysterious ceremonies to pray for the gods' blessings. What disturbed me even more was that they seemed to regard these rituals as part of their lives and participated in them without hesitation, as if they were used to them. As time went on, I became more and more frightened of the village. At night, I would hear creepy shouts and eerie incantations, and it felt as if the entire village was shrouded in a mysterious darkness. I began to wonder if I was caught up in the machinations of some evil force, if something was secretly controlling the village, making them live unnoticed in mysterious shadows. Though I tried to remain calm, I couldn't shake this feeling of dread. Whenever I tried to escape from this village, I was met with some unexplainable resistance that compelled me to return to this mysterious place again. I began to realize that a greater price might have to be paid to escape this terrifying village, and whether I was willing to bear that price became the greatest struggle within me.